Ari Lennox says, I want out of my contract. So the fight for control becomes real. I'm working on a plan to transition off social media for good.
When you sign to a record label, part of the trade-off is you're putting your career essentially in their hands.
You have a very clear vision for what you want for your career, right? So let's have you take control. I am definitely an expert on helping artists on getting out of bad contracts. It is what I've done as a lawyer for the last 10 years. I've been in the music business for a long, long time. And then I became a lawyer. It's not just bad contracts, it's bad relationships as well, which is basically what we're going to be talking about today. So the way I'm going to frame this is we're focusing on three things. So one is going to be, I want to teach you how to get out of bad contracts and what I do as an attorney. I want to tell you basically within the context of the story of Ari Lennox and basically the beef that she has with her record label and what all happened that made her actually go to Instagram to just air everything out. And then I want to tell you basically how to get out of these contracts yourselves and think like lawyers. Okay? So that's what we're going to accomplish today. But I think maybe let's start by talking about what's going on with
Ari Lennox.
This is on TMZ. Ari says, I want out of my contract. And so she is right now, she signed with Dreamville, which is J. Cole's label, and Interscope. And she went on this rant on Instagram for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
She basically just went off in regards to her label and her deal. Well, I guess where I'll kind of start is just she goes, I'm just so tired of being nice. Like, this is the final straw. She focused on a couple of things, but one of them had to do with just the lack of advertising. So she has this song, Smoke, and music video. And I don't know if you saw the music video, but it's a cool video. And she was like in a warehouse and she's in a straitjacket. She's taking medication, things like that. And I guess her team ended up releasing this video without her okay. She just talks about how like this whole record that she's been working on is her trying to take back words that have been spoken over her. And she's like, I've been like forced to become this poster child for like mental health. So she goes, I'm having such a hard time because now I'm in a position with like a big label and all this exciting stuff where now people are putting what they want to do on me and like releasing my stuff without my okay. And I think most of us, looking at this can understand why that would be upsetting.
Absolutely. I mean, just think about how the process of, independent artists release music. Like when we release a song, right? We have a lot of back and forth conversation, to put it nicely sometimes, about what we want the visual to represent, what we want, how we want the artwork to be, when we want the song, what time we want the song to be released. There's a lot of control that just even at this level that we have. And we know that when you sign to a record label, part of the trade-off is you're putting your career essentially in their hands, and they're going to make those decisions. They're going to pick the single. They're going to pick the release date. They're going to push you back if they have another artist on their label that's going to be released around the same time, so it doesn't conflict. They're taking care of all those things, and you relinquish that control. So I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about that trade-off here.
The fight for control. And I can tell you, right, as a music lawyer and in the contracts with these record labels, it always says that the final decision will be held by the record label. And reasonably speaking, if the record label is helping to produce the music and put out the videos and do all the stuff, they have to make the final decisions ultimately. Sometimes we can sneak in some language and can be like, well, the label and the artist will share in decision making for the creative stuff, right? For the album and the music and all that. But like my thought is always, well, if the label has the final decision regarding business decisions, that means they have the final say on everything. So the fight for control becomes real. And I look at someone like Ari, who has just a massive following, and at her level it doesn't really change, because she goes, I had this release, and she said literally, I'm embarrassed. So she went on this live stream. She's like, quote, Instagram is what is keeping me damn relevant. And she basically says she can't stand it. She's like, in order for anyone to know about anything that we're doing as creators, we have to get on Instagram. We have to get on music platforms. And if not, we are literally irrelevant. And so her beef was kind of, about this Smoke song. And she says that when the song came out on Friday, which is industry standard for music releases, and we were literally just talking about this in regards to our song, and we're like, we're done. We're not going to release our songs on Fridays anymore because no one wants to listen to music on Friday. Everyone's about to go into their weekend. They're busy. Like Tuesday is the day you should release your music.
Tyler, the creator, was just talking about that because it's just the frustration. He was talking about that on Nardwar. He's bringing it up again a few years ago. He's bringing it up again now. From the perspective, I used to work in record stores for like 5-6 years, and back before it got crazy and just everything went to streaming, and everything was released on Tuesdays, and it was perfect because you don't want it released on Monday because you're just getting back into work and getting back to your week. You're just done with the weekend. But it gives you all week to dive into an album to really give it that play over the weekend. If you on Fridays, I find my back's up against the wall trying to listen to stuff. I used to do New Music Friday on this channel, but like when we used to have our shows live streams on Friday, but there wasn't really enough time to get into any records that were coming out in a meaningful way. So then I'm doing New Music Friday next Wednesday. That doesn't make any sense. So I think, moving forward, I think we're going to follow that Tyler model of releasing it earlier in the week. I think I want to go back to Tuesday myself.
Top Music Attorney is your #1 legal resource for artists, producers, and record labels. Get contract templates, one-on-one legal advice, free master classes, and everything you need for your music business. Go to topmusicattorney.com. Well, and then one of the things that the artist was talking about, she's like, the song comes out, and then she says her label didn't do like any marketing. So she goes, literally over the weekend, I'm scrambling to go and learn how to do a Google ad for the very first time. She's like, I'm throwing my own money on it. And she goes, I was left, quote, I was left feeling embarrassed.
Sure.
Why am I doing this? Quote, I wish I had a label who cared. And a part of me just goes, look, I'm always going to come back to at some point, you are not going to be signed with a record label. Like that's the progression of most artists' careers. I am always going to be like, you absolutely should know how to do your own marketing.
Right.
Now, if you have a team who's supposed to be doing that for you, fairly be pissed. But equally, yes, go learn how to do a Google ad, right? And then for the budget, and then like get your team to go, all right, label, now you need to go and reimburse us because you didn't pay for this. And these are the things
That's
where
interesting.
this is where we strategically come back to the drawing board and we go, it sounds like you have a very clear vision for what you want for your career, right? So let's have you take control.
So I have kind of a question about that though. So there can be a little conflict. Ari started independent before she got signed to Dreamville. She was releasing records on her own. So she knows a little bit about what that's like. My question to you is, do you think that if you're on a major label, do you think that artists should have more direct say on what happens with their music and how they're released? I have a couple conflicting thoughts, but I want to know just like what does your instinct tell you?
Yeah, my instinct is that I think labels need to treat artists like partners and artists need to treat themselves and the labels like partners. Because what happens is that there's a power dichotomy where the artist comes in, they're like, oh, yay, label, you do all the stuff. I don't want to know about it. Market it. I'm going to go and make the creative. I'm just the artist. And that is a huge mistake. That is a huge mistake because you have to have a business sense. And every single person who has been in this music business that has ever made a cent and been like, oh my gosh, I realized too late. And they always are kicking themselves. And so that doesn't have to be you. And wherever you are right now, you might already be a big star. You might not be quite where you want to be just yet. But just taking time to understand the music business, stop having your head in the sand. Like take the time to learn and it will help you. So for example, one of the things we're talking about with her is, okay, if I was advising her and I was her attorney, what would I tell her in this situation? And there's two things. One, I always go back to strategy. I go, how do we get the label to do what you want? Because you have bargaining power at this point. You have a big audience. You have lots of people who like what you are doing. So let's use that.
Well, she's an important part. She's an important factor of Dreamville. She's an important piece of that label as far as, artist roster.
Yeah. So I always go back to strategy, including on actually starting to build your own team, to take it upon yourself if you can DIY, learn how to do a Facebook ad and a Google ad. Like it's amazing because all of a sudden you can be in the driver's seat. And then we go back to the drawing board and we negotiate. You better believe I'm going back to that label and I go, we had to run our own advertising. You're reimbursing us, da 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 da. But then also I'm going back to the contract and I go, well, hopefully there's something in the agreement that says the label was going to advertise for you. Because if they didn't, it's a breach of contract. And now we can look at ways to either invalidate the agreement or get some kind of remedy for you. So this is how I'm able to help artists when they come to me and they go, and it's all the time. Hey, I signed the bad contract. I know I should have got an attorney. I didn't. Help me. And so then we look at all the ways to get you out, including, has the other side breached the contract already? Did they fail to perform in some meaningful way? Are they even a legally registered entity? And sometimes we can find a little nugget to get you out of the contract altogether. And sometimes when we run up against a brick wall and you are locked into that contract, then we get into kind of creative lawyering of like, all right, how else can we go at this?
You know, if she wasn't comfortable with the video that was being released, I wonder if she vocalized it as she was shooting. I wonder how much say she had in the concept. I wonder how much say she had
Sure.
in all those things. Let me pose it just the other side of that coin, right? So I think that artists should take control of their career, and from the ground level they should be learning the entire business, and they should know how to do all these jobs, and they should be building up their platforms and building up their clout, so when they go into record, when a label's finally approach them, they have all the negotiating power in the world because they have a track record. They have some kind of knowledge. They built up their career to this level so much, and so now it's like a true partnership. A lot of artists are still kind of living that dream of, I'm just hoping to get discovered out of nothingness. An A&R person's going to come and they are going to make me a big star. They're going to give me this huge advance. They're going to invest millions of dollars in me, but you still think that you have control of what you say. Now, at that point, you're in a way, you're kind of becoming their employee, and they're going to say something. And if you don't have that proven track record that you can do this on your own and you don't really need them, the whole point that you're partnering with them is for that business side to make those decisions. I mean, a lot of artists, and myself included for a long time, had our head in the clouds. We just want to make music. We just want to have fun, and we just expect everything. You know, maybe you're one of those artists that goes, I don't care what it costs. I want a huge extravagant budget for my thing, and it's in my contract that I make that decision. Well, you're just costing yourself more money, and what if it flops? Like, the goal is when you're partnering with these people that everybody is trying to make money. That's what you hope to have happen. So I think for, artists, the best way that you never get yourself in this position is to learn these things now, and to get a hold of these things. And so you're not just, wow, I got this great opportunity. J. Cole wants to come and he wants to sign me, plucking me out of obscurity or whatever. I'm super stoked this. Where do I sign? And no shade against J. Cole. Love J. Cole. Let's not even get it confused even a little bit. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of artists that have their own little independent labels and different things that they do. You're putting a lot of trust in that when you sign with the label. So just get your money right ahead of time.
She posted on social media, hey, I'm working on a plan to transition off social media for good. I don't believe I'll ever mature and be happy as long as I have it. So my last days of socials will be December 18th, my 2 years sobriety anniversary. I will be deleting my Facebook, Instagram, TikTok permanently. The fear of losing brand deals, sales, the ladies and the men will no longer keep me here. To all my beautiful fans, I'm just not happy nor thriving here. I have a very toxic and codependent relationship with these apps.
The thing of it is, I think that she is going to get a lot of support. The Dreamville artists and people that follow that stuff are very passionate about their artists that are on that. And I think they're going to take that side. Who was that we talked about? Was it Halsey that was complaining about having to go viral, have a viral moment on TikTok? All of these things, when you listen to her Instagram, IG, you get this also on YouTube and stuff. It's already gotten on IG like over 800,000 views on it, which is pretty high for her for when she released it. And then, just across all of their social media platforms, the amount of hits that from people re-uploading it, millions of views are on this thing now. And in a way, this is a good advertisement and promotion for everything as well. But if she wasn't really happy with the way things turned out, it's also drawing more attention to it. I'm glad that she's voicing her opinion, and I'm glad that other artists are coming out and voicing their opinions more and just kind of saying how they feel. Now, again, that's kind of what we do when we sign these contracts without having all the knowledge that we need. I don't know if that's her case. I don't know what her deal is. Her record deal, not her. I don't know what her problem is, but
Well,
her
that's the
record deal
tough
is.
part. That's the tough part. If in the contract they don't have any terms about marketing, that's the tough part. Because then the label can come back and be like, we didn't agree that we were going to do any kind of specified amount of marketing. And then she comes back, she goes, well, I'm unhappy about this. And she doesn't have anything that she can potentially point to. But then that's when you have someone who's experienced who can come in and make them do what they need to do. Now, other thing.
Michael Jackson also, we were kind of talking about this when he released I think it was his Invincible record. He was complaining that the labels weren't spending the right marketing money on it and all that kind of thing. That was like the first time where I really heard something aside from like Prince and stuff. And sometimes there's different reasons why they may not put the budget in. Maybe they do put the correct budget in. They just made some mistakes with some things. They made some bad calls. I don't know. I'm not trying to defend the label, but I'm just saying I don't know what these budgets are, if they're in the contracts for her, of what they're going to be per record, if there's like a set kind of thing that she's not seeing or what?
Are three things. One, just on the best way to get out of a contract, a bad relationship. Sometimes it's not just about looking at four corners of the contract. Was there something that was breached? But also, how do we strategize the leverage that you have? If you are this artist, you are not this teeny tiny little artist that does not have any sway. You absolutely do. And so I just don't want her to forget that. You know, she's obviously a very strong, independent person. And so that needs to kind of go into what she decides to do next. Two, you know, as far as like the breakdown of her situation and the frustration that she feels, that's what we talk about. We're like, look, if you're going to sign with any company that's now going to own your music and be in charge of your releases and be in charge of your stuff, then this is part of what happens. So always consider the next stage of your career. Can you build your own thing? Can you teach yourself these marketing techniques so you can oversee and you can tell people exactly what you want and how much money needs to go into it? So her frustration hopefully will deliver her into the next phase of what's going to happen in her career.
Do you think that there's something in her contract, because she's saying she's looking into Google ads and she's going to start looking to do her own marketing the way that she wants to do it? Could that be seen as like a breach of contract on her end? Sometimes what things that artists do can absolutely be counterproductive to what the label's efforts are trying to do if they're having some kind of opposite messaging or just anything like conflicting time schedules if she just wants to leak stuff. So I know that they have rules and things that they can and cannot do, but do you think that should be that's one? Have you seen that before?
Yeah, if there are terms in her contract in regards to marketing, then that's good because then it says what the label has agreed to do in the marketing. And that sometimes will put a restriction on the artist and say, this is what you cannot do. You can't just go and do stuff. You have to run it by us. You need to get approvals. So I always go back to let's look at the contract. If we're having a contract problem, let's look at it and see what we can do.
Yeah, I
Let's
love
go.
Ari
Let's
and I
go.
hope she gets it.